And welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Ness.
And I'm Jay. Welcome. New
Welcome.
season, new vibes, new losing streak.
What a great way to start the season. Um,
Woo! Hey,
before
we
we
got
get into,
points though. We've got points. They're
yeah,
just,
it's true.
we would have
I mean,
liked the other points.
no, right. At least we have 2 points. It's not like a flat zeros across the board. Um, Before we get to into all of the hockey goodness and things, I think we should probably let our listeners know that we are going to be changing our schedule up a little bit this season, just so they're aware. For the time being, I don't know for how long, we will be only recording every other week because we got a lot of stuff going on in our personal lives we need to attend to. We don't want to burn ourselves out. So this season, every other week instead of every week for the time being. I don't know if it's going to be for the whole season yet. I don't know if we're going to pick it back up once we got everything in order, but just wanted to let y'all know. Hope you guys stick around anyways, and yeah, good to go. All right. So the sharks. Before we get into the heartbreak, let's talk about how they announced the new alternate captains. I personally was hoping that they would name a captain. I know how you feel, but I was personally hoping that they would name Tyler Toffoli captain for at least a season to get, like, I don't know, just that leadership going that I feel the team has really been missing. In I know there's a lot of leaders in the room. I can understand that. Obviously, the coaches feel the same way with how many alternates there are. But it feels like they're really missing the head guy, the one guy that the whole team looks up to. But this was Warsawski's decision. Now there are 5 alternates. I don't remember how many they had last year because they kept switching them out since they traded away so many dudes.
I think it was probably the same.
About the same.
Last year, I believe Ferraro did not have the A because he was talking about it in the interview, and people are asking him about. Did you watch that interview? Any of them? Okay, you should go back. In particular, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I can relate to where he's feeling, perhaps. But when this got announced, the media's all over it. They're asking them all types of angles of the captaincy, asking about like going with the C versus going all A's. How do you feel about getting the A? How do you feel about you getting to wear it at home versus you're not a A on the road and all this stuff? And like everyone's got their opinions, of course, about their feelings on what it means to have the captaincy, both as the players and fans. We were like all last season with Couture being out, there were fans being like, there needs to be a captain in the room, this and that and whatever. And then even during the off season when Couture announced that he would be unable to play, then there's all it's like the next day people are like, well, who's going to be the captain? It's like it's been talked about months on months on months. This has been like a hot topic for it to come to this announcement. For me, I'm happy. This is actually the direction that I want to go. And mostly it's just because this team is in a rebuild. We're still in a rebuild. We're like far past the tearing it all down. This season, I think they're going to try even harder on the management side to make sure that we don't end up 32nd in the league. Like we cannot have another season of that for financial reasons, for fan vibe reasons, all these reasons. Like this team on paper, I think they have the tools. Of course, like what half the roster is like new. It's going to take some time. We're going to get into it a little later. Feelings on the home opener versus the game last night. I personally don't like Warsawski said in his interview. They just decided that they didn't want to put it all on one guy. And that kind of goes just into how people sort of take the C. Maybe you put the C on Toffoli and he doesn't feel that extra weight. Maybe he just feels like it just means that maybe the leaders get together and maybe he feels like I they trust me to have like the final say or something versus them all having A's where it's more like a group project type of thing and no one necessarily is taking the lead. They just felt that they really didn't want to put it on any one guy given where they're at for this season. And then it was also noted that Toffoli will be wearing the A for the entire time, which added the question of why can't you just give him the C? Rosowski, I felt like he handled it quite well. He was also telling them, like, don't read so much into it. Like, it's just, the end of the day, everyone's going to feel a certain way about this. Everyone's going to take a certain direction. And ultimately, I think these guys just wanted to get the season going. They're kind of like, okay, cool, we've got the leaders. All right, let's get ready for like opening night. Going back to what I mentioned about Ferraro, and then it's just his personality. He was getting asked these questions about like, oh, he's going to wear it on the road versus at home. How did he feel about not having the A last season? How did he feel about there being no captain? How would it be different if there was a captain in the room versus all the A's? And I just think bro was just like, I really don't care. like no offense. It's like, of course, they want to establish a leadership and everything. But I think like the intricacy of the questions is just at a certain point, I think he was trying to give an answer, but then it's also like, I don't care enough to give an answer. And I think you could kind of feel it at a certain point during the questioning. And I'm just like, yeah, that's how I feel about this interview right now. We're just because he was being asked things like, and this is no offense to the media, they got to do their job. They got to write up their articles. You don't want just like the standard questions and, write some blah article. You want something that'll be different and engaging. But something like asking him how the difference between wearing it on the road versus at home, I think they maybe don't even think about that. And at one point he was like, it's not like I'm going to stop being a leader when I played home games.
Right.
I'm just like, bro is irritated. He's like, what kind of question is that? I don't know. I don't care.
That's hella funny.
And okay. One tangent off of this. We were talking offline about this, and then Elena brought in a reference to like, oh, it's like because Salvini got named captain, assistant captain, which I really, really liked. I thought I didn't see that coming, but I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Surround him, put him in a leadership role, surround him by all these types of leaders. It's going to be great for, we know he's eventually going to get the C, right? Mm-hmm. And Elena was saying, oh, it's like, he's D'Artagnan surrounded by like the Three Musketeers, which prompted me to like, I want to watch the early 90s Three Musketeers movie. So interesting to watch it with that on the side. Because then I was trying to decide between like the Three Musketeers, like who on the Sharks alternate captain buys with the. So anyways, total tangent. Going back to the captaincy, do you want to just like go through how we feel about each person being chosen?
Sure.
Okay. I'm sure this is going to be the one that people are going to be like, why, whatever. But I actually am fine with Barclay Goodrow being chosen. Like, yeah. I get it. He's not playing on the top two lines. He's kind of not the guy that he's a different type of player now versus when we had him originally. But I think it's good to kind of, as I looked at all of them, they all kind of play different roles on the team. And I think, you've got like the grinders down on like the fourth line. Obviously Ferraro is kind of, here's your leader for like the defense. Toffoli, here's your leader for like, the top line, Alex Wenberg right down the middle, and Macklin is like the inspiration and the leader for like the young guys. So that, I don't know. That was kind of like my feeling when I looked at I'm like, I think this is a good, yeah,
A good bunch.
this is a good choice. Good choices.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel relatively the same. Again, I also wasn't expecting them to give Celebrini the A. I thought like once he was ready, they'd just give him the C. But this is nice. Like it's kind of a warm up. Like here's basically what it's gonna be like to wear this and like represent this leadership. Give him a taste of that before they throw him into the wolves. With Barkley, I think it's interesting because he did wear an A on the Rangers when he was in New York. So it's not surprising to me that he's wearing one. I think they gave him the A to wear at some point last season as well when Granlund got traded or something. Not surprising. I don't hate it. I think I've been seeing a lot of hate comments on social media these days, which is really interesting because I haven't seen this since like 2019 when the Sharks were good and like people would blow things out of proportion about them losing a game every so often. And between Goodrow and I can't remember what other player they were talking about, they're saying like waste of a roster space. And I'm like, no. Like obviously Goodrow is not one of those players that you're going to turn to score goals. Okay? I think it was him and Reeves, which well, buddy, we can talk about that in a minute, but Goodrow, like people forget he is a really good penalty killer. Like y'all forget that our penalty killing sucked when we traded him away the first time. He does what he needs to do, and I think he played on the line with Cadet in like Tampa for that Stanley Cup run. I think they on was that him? Were they on
I'm
the
not
same
sure.
line?
I'm not sure.
Do you want to look that up real quick? Oh. But I feel like it was. And so like they have that chemistry and I think they were playing really well these two games that they've played so far. What's the did I make that up?
I'm not seeing any history with Tampa. So
Damn it.
But I mean, but I've heard some good things about Gaudette, so maybe you're mixing two things together. Either way, I agree with you. Like Goodrow is not going to be the guy that you're putting on the top line to like make plays with Celebrini and everything. But going back to like last season when we picked up Ostapchuk, and people were like, "Oh, why do we pick up this guy?" Granted, we have yet to see, but that's still a decision that's being developed in terms of, okay, I think there's something brewing there, and I'll sit back and wait to see it come to fruition. But you need all these types of guys. We talked about it last season about like, yeah, sure, I'd love to have Celebrinis down the center. Is that gonna happen? Unlikely. And like of course, when they're out there, there's certain guys that you're turning to like, okay, putting you out there because we need to tie up this game or whatever. You're probably putting out your top two lines. You're putting out the Celebrini line. You're putting out the Wenberg to Foley line. You're probably not putting out the Goodrow line, but when the other team is putting out their equivalent of that line, you want the guys who know how to dig in deep to defend. That is their primary focus. Maybe they catch a break or whatever, and someone sees Goodrow heading down to the ozone, and he sends the puck flying down the middle, and you have that moment where it's like game 7 in overtime and whatever, like he's very known for that moment. Is that what he does for the team? Not necessarily that play, but he's the guy that knows his assignment. He's going to grind it out. And you need guys like that. So yeah, he's not like, I saw people being like, oh, Goodrow over like Eklund. I'm like, okay, love Eki, but I feel like your argument is just because you want Eklund to have the A, and there's nothing beyond that, which,
some players just don't have that leadership quality. They're really good players on the ice, but they don't speak up or take up that role in the locker room like they need to. Or
wearing the letter does not equal you're the best player on the team in terms of scoring, in terms of all these other qualities. Like there's all kinds of criteria for a leader.
Right. And I think people forget that.
Yeah.
Ferraro, not surprised because he's had the A before. It's nice that he has it again. Toffoli, we were all expecting. Wenberg, again, not super surprised because they did give him the A at some point last season. But I've been pleasantly surprised with him because when I followed Seattle, when that first couple seasons, whatever season he was on that team, he was just there. Or maybe I just didn't pay as much attention to him, but he was kind of just there. And on this team, I actually notice him making some really good plays, playing 3C. He's on the third line.
I want to say so.
Yeah, like I've seen him setting up his wingers and making some really nice or like sneaky plays. So I'm happy with this. He seems to like have a good head on his shoulders to be able to lead the young guys. And again, Celebrini, we already talked about. So
he's anchoring as 2C, but they were moving around during preseason. Yeah, it's Macklin, Wenberg, Delandria, and Gaudette down the middle.
Okay.
So on Wenberg, when I would catch games and just be following him for fantasy reasons, like he did spend a good deal of time on their power play one. He was able to like be moved up and down the roster. But when he came onto the Sharks, that's when I really understood, like, oh, he's that type of guy that's very versatile. And he's not the most flashy player. Like, he's not going to come streaking in like a Celebrini or like a Toffoli. But all last season, he would just make the play that you needed. And it wasn't like I said, flashy. It's like, Celebrini's coming down, I'm going to chip this puck to him. And he just has that. He's like, he kind of reminded me a bit of Joe Thornton, especially.
Yeah, but like very subtle.
Yeah. So kudos to you, Wenberg.
I like him on the team. I don't know, man. Do you want to go ahead and carry this on over to the cap space conversation?
Sure. So I am still holding out on Carey Price making an appearance in Teal. Just do it for me, man, please.
You don't even have to be in full gear. Just wear the jersey.
I just want one clip.
Sharks legend Carey Price is crazy.
It was funny on opening night, when they show before puck drop who are the scratches, and Carey Price is a scratch because he's like on the active roster. He hasn't been moved to IR because we need that money weighing on us. But I'm like, I just need one clip.
Yeah, so silly. Interesting. Wait. I'm looking at the buyout and cap charges. So this morning, as you all know, we record on Sundays. This morning it was announced that Lucas Carlson and Jack Thompson were put on waivers. Was that for the purpose of buying them out? Because they're on this list.
I didn't see any additional information.
Because they're on the buyout and cap charges list. Are they?
Perhaps that's just where they go while they're in limbo.
Oh, it says opening IR. Are they injured? I'm confused.
So.
Clearly, I don't know what's going on with this team.
Says season opening injured reserve. If a player is on a two-way contract and was on the NHL roster for less than 50 games played last year and is injured prior to opening roster, their cap hit while injured is prorated based on number of days on roster last year multiplied by the current year's cap hit. So that's just where Puckpedia apparently drops them.
Oh, okay.
While they're in motion.
Okay. So the Sharks are an interesting team this year because they have like 4 people on the roster, on their not the roster, but like on their books that are on IR. They will never get to see a game play in Teal, I don't think. Obviously, Logan Couture, he announced his retirement, but he's still on the books. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Afanasyev.
Sure.
I barely remember acquiring him. Ryan Ellis from, where was he coming from? Nashville?
I think from Philly.
Philly? Oh, yeah, that sounds right. Ryan Ellis is on IR, and then obviously Carey Price. So people, when these moves were made, we were like, what are we doing? And I can't remember if we talked about this before we went on break, because we had acquired somebody. But these are moves obviously not for the benefit of the Sharks on the ice. This is more so to keep them compliant with the cap floor in case Greer decides to trade off a bunch of dudes at the trade deadline again, depending on how the season goes. So those are interesting.
The Ellis and the Price acquisitions were fairly new, so we didn't talk about that because I would definitely remember that because when it was announced, I was like, does he know he's not going to play for us?
Right. I know. Carey Price?
Oh my man. We're really going for it. Yeah, Ellis and Price are basically, I want to say Price came out at a season or so ago, basically saying, yeah, he's not going to be able to come back.
Yeah.
So for Montreal, they're doing, better over the last couple of seasons. He'd been on their roster, IR, similar kind of situation for us where it's like, it's not necessarily needed for them to move him, but I think they're kind of entering a stage in their development where it's probably going to make the most sense, especially with this being his last season on the books. So benefits us. It's kind of interesting, a little silly, but that's the situation that we're in.
It is what it is. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to talk about here.
Well, we didn't talk about the Ryan Reeves acquisition, pretty sure.
Right. No, we didn't. How do you feel about that?
It is what it is, bro. Okay, bro. Okay. Home opener against the Knights. I'm like, this guy better not go easy on his former team.
Right.
Your assignment on this team. And we remember quite well what you were doing while you were on that team.
We know what you're capable of.
You did the work. Don't be so soft on them.
You know who wasn't soft that I was really surprised at? Newly announced Gulen Tomas Hurdle. Because what were you doing that day, buddy?
That penalty that
Which one?
The second one that was that he got Skinner high up on. I didn't see it when it happened, but on the replay, my friend that I went to the game with, I was like, wait, hold up. Is that Hurdle? I was shocked. I'm like, bro. I'm like, man. And my friend said, well, he's Vegas now.
No, right. That's what I said. It's like, what? As soon as you put on that sweater, you just become a goon. That's crazy. because he got a boarding penalty before that too. That same night,
Oh, okay.
he was on one. And I think I saw Shang tweet that he was getting genuine boos that night because of that hit on Skinner. Like, what are you doing? Fan favorite, but like,
Mm-hmm.
come on, dude, simmer down.
So, yeah, Ryan Reeves. It is what it is. Fine. Oh, on Rosowski's interview, someone had asked in regards to Reeves and fighting and Celebrini, and Rosowski said, "I don't necessarily want him teaching Celebrini how to fight."
Because that's not going to be his role.
You're like, no, thank you. Pass.
That's silly. If you told me a couple years ago that in the year 2025, Tomas Hertl would be a Golden Knight and Ryan Reeves would be a Shark, I would have laughed at you. I'd be like, you're crazy.
Like,
Where are
don't
we?
speak such abominations into the universe, and here we are.
Oh, so sad. You know, I don't hate it. After watching him play these couple games, I think I understand why the teams he has been on, he has been a team favorite,
Mm-hmm.
or a fan favorite, I should say. Um, just from the little bit that I've heard and picked up on socials, he seems like a very personable guy. Dudes like him in the locker room. He obviously he's not going to contribute the way a Celebrini does, the same way Goodrow won't. But he has his role. He'll do what he needs to do. And like the game last night, he had his first fight as a Shark. And he also had a goal, which he didn't score not one goal all season last year with the Maple Leafs, apparently. But he got a goal, and it
Hard
was a
to
good,
score when you're in the press box.
you know, and that's a fair point. But dude, actually, he took the puck to the net and he scored. Like I don't know, he looked like an actual NHL player out there.
I see on opening night when he was out there, and I think like the puck was loose and in his area or something like that. And my friend said, "Oh, here comes the breakout Ryan Reeves," and I was like, "Shut up, man."
Watch, he's gonna be one of our top scorers. Yeah, but I think the environment of the locker room that Greer is trying to create, people having fun while they play hockey, keeping it light and loose for the young guys to have a really comfortable environment to come up in. I think his personality is going to mesh really well with what's going on. If like it seems like it already has. Looks like him and Toffoli are getting along really well from one of the socials clips that was released. Um, so I mean, I don't. It's weird to say, but I don't hate it. You know, like let him do what he needs to do. Let him vibe out with the team, and I don't know. He seems to be a good addition so far.
It is what it is for me. Like I don't like I the vibes like I've seen as he's left Vegas and like gone on to like the different teams that he's been on. Like I don't doubt that he is a great presence in the locker room, especially if like on these nights where you almost you were so close to getting the win only for it to not happen, and to have someone who has been in the league for so long and he's able to kind of turn a frustrating night into maybe something a little positive, keep people especially the young guys making sure that it doesn't bring them down quite as much. I think that's important to have in the locker room. Of course, with the history related to Vegas versus San Jose with Kane and him and whatever, it's like that's what you think about initially when you acquire this guy. So it's not my favorite acquisition, but it isn't something where I'm like, no, we never should have never should have done that for whatever reasons. Like there's definitely players out there where I would be like, there's no way you can spin this that would make me be okay with him being anywhere near the guys and getting any amount of time on ice. Like we understand why he's acquired. And I think out of the guys that played that role, I'm fine with it being Reeves in the locker. I'm sure it's very strange for him given the history, but he's spoken about that when we acquired him. So it's gonna be weird because what he was doing a signing when he got, you know, the call and whatever. So it's gonna be weird for him, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And I look forward to, you know, we're gonna get more losses during this season. Hopefully not as many as last season, and it's going to be good knowing that he'll be in the locker room to help the guys along through the growing pains.
Yeah. One more thing before we move on. I think my favorite acquisition of the off season, especially now watching these two games, is Jeff Skinner. I think I was really hoping the Sharks would sign someone like him again because he is one of those guys who does not hide his personality from the media or from, you know, the public's eye. He seems like a really cool dude, and he was working on the ice last night. Like, I was pleasantly surprised by some of the things he was doing. I don't think I've ever really noticed him playing on any other team. Like, I'm not looking out for these guys specifically, but you know, if a guy stands out, they stand out, and I don't think he's ever stood out playing against the Sharks at any point, or not very often. But now that he's on the Sharks, you know, I actually get to watch how he plays, and I've been happy with what I've been seeing. So he's on my fantasy team, and both times that he scored and got assists or whatever, he was on my bench. So I think I need to pull him off that in a little bit.
I had Celebrini and Smith on the bench last night.
You see, you just can't do that. 3 assists each, dude.
Oh man. It's all right. I'm learning about my guys on my teams this season.
Yeah. Okay. Before we move on, we do have to do this. We gotta talk to you about our sponsor. Same as last year, you guys. If you're new to the channel, we are being sponsored by DraftKings. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see their logo up here. Promo codes up top as well. But let me tell you a little about this. Hockey is back, and this season, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, brings you all the speed, skill, and nonstop action you love. New customers bet just $5, and if your bets win, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-7897. Wait, I always do this wrong. Hold on. 888-789-7777. Or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. Pass-through of per wage tax. My gosh. Per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved. That was harder. Listen, I'm still in beginning of the season mode. I want to pull up the games coming up tomorrow. If my app would load, that'd be nice. In the meantime, wait, I got it. Hold on, give me a second. Tomorrow, it looks like the Lightning and Bruins are going at it. What do you call this? Let's do the money line. The money line is a negative 162 for the Lightning and a plus 136 for the Bruins. The Jets against Islanders. Jets is a negative 122. Islanders are plus 102. The Preds and Senators. Preds are a plus 145 and the Senators are a negative 175. There are a lot of games tomorrow. Let me do one more. We'll do the Utah Mammoth against the Blackhawks. The Mammoth is a negative 162, and the Blackhawks are a plus 136. You can go ahead and download the sports book app. Check these bets you can make. Place your bets. Win some money. I am done with this ad read. Let's move on. All right. So earlier this week, because it was the home opener, there was a whole party before the game. The Sharks announced the new Sharks Way. I don't know which street that they decided to rename by the tank. Do you know? Were you there?
I remember seeing the announcement, but
You didn't notice which one?
Couldn't tell you.
So one of the streets by SAP Center was renamed to Sharks Way, which is cute. And Hasso Platner, who is the owner of the Sharks here, he made an appearance, which he hasn't done in like over 10 years or something, I heard. He got to speak about the Sharks, how he feels, and Shang wrote an article about this interview, or I guess what was talked about at the opening, the unveiling of the street name and whatever. So, were you able to read it all, or just bits of
I
it?
did.
Okay, what are your thoughts here? What are the ones that stood out to you?
There were quite a few. Some stood out more than others, and I can't say with time that I was able to like better process it. I think, I don't think there's necessarily like a, we're all gonna read this and think a certain way. Obviously, the part with his regret on trading away Norris, not being able to draft Sisla, and what was the third part related to that? We'll get to it. Let's just kind of like go down the line because I read this a couple of days ago, and
Right.
so I guess the most interesting points were, and we talked about this before we hopped on. This guy is very forward mindset, which is not a bad thing. It's just sometimes it comes at you and you're like, whoa, like
He's very direct.
So direct where it's like, wow, you just threw him like way under the bus and then reversed and went back over him. Like,
in case you didn't get him the first time.
That's how I felt about certain things related to him talking about Wilson, but I just think he was being very forward about his thoughts, which I can respect, even though reading about it, I'm like,
oh, right.
Yeah.
So they start off with asking him about how hard it was to let San Jose Sharks GM Mike Grier. Sorry, my page glitched. How hard it was for him to rebuild the team. And he talks a little bit about like why they hired him and what was going on around that time with the players. Pavelski was already gone at that point. Carlson was on his way out, and it looks like Burns had asked for a trade, and so had Hurdle, which I guess was a little surprising for me to hear because I think Hurdle had just signed an 8-year extension around this point. So it was like, if you wanted out, why would you sign such a long contract? So that didn't really make sense to me, but it is what it is. We knew Burns was going to be on his way out from the way he was playing, but it is interesting to hear about this from the inside. Platner on Greer's vision coming to fruition. He talks a little bit about what he thinks Greer is doing with the team, how he describes that he's very systematic, and the biggest difference between his and Wilson's team. He did mention that we are drafting better under Greer, which is really interesting how he goes about telling the fans and people in attendance of this. Okay, I want to read this. It's good that that we got high high draft picks. They're drafting better. Before we wasted high draft picks. I have to look them up whether anyone is really playing in the NHL from those draft picks wasted. When I was reading this, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then he goes on to say, is Bordeleau playing in the NHL? I was like, ouch. And they were labeled as the next big thing. When I saw him, he was in love with the puck. Hockey team is a difficult group to build, but they work together and they don't play for show. Therefore, I'm so happy about Celebrini, how he can do everything, but he does everything possible for the other players, for his partners on the ice. I think you see this and you report this, and he is a leader. I think I did hear at some point somewhere that there was some tension between Bordeleau and Platner, that there were some comments being made. I don't remember where or how I heard this, but this is something I did hear. And again, doesn't really surprise me. I think it's surprising that Platner's saying this out loud for everyone to hear. And he's like, listen, I told you needed to play as like for the team, and you are a puck hog. And look at you. You're not even playing in the NHL right now.
I guess there comes a certain bit of entitlement when you're the one paying for the existence of the team. So
it's just crazy to me.
Yeah. He also threw Doug Jr. under the bus.
Yes. Oh my God. I don't know where that was, but again, with the comments about drafting, I think someone asked him how his relationship is with Doug Wilson, our former GM, and he was like, "It's good. He left because he was sick. He was having permanent headaches, and like you can't work that way. Whatever." The one I can't remember the quote exactly, but he goes, "The one I'm not fond of right now is his son because he sucked at drafting." I was like, "Whoa." And I don't know if he still works for the Kraken, but that was the last place that I saw him working as, same position he was drafting. So if he hears that, he needs to learn how to draft better. I think he also threw EK65 under the bus at one point.
That was interesting.
Right.
Okay, before we go into that though, I want to circle back to the Tomash thing. Okay. Doug Wilson was successful for a majority of his career as a GM of the Sharks. We were in the playoffs for a million years. It was fun and stuff. We just could never get the ultimate prize. We found our way there at one point, which kind of lit this fire or relit the fire a little bit where, we signed Martin Jones. So that contract. And then we picked up EK65 in 2018. So, when Platner's talking about how, he didn't want that to happen. Okay. He said Platner on why the Sharks extended Tomas Hertl in March 2022. We still had the hope, and Wilson still had the hope that he could turn it around, Couture and Hertl. But then, he said all these years we worked together, he told me he doesn't like long-term contracts and this is wrong, what the other ones do. And then all of a sudden he's, signing Vlasic and Hertl and, EK65 to these, long-term contracts. And, he talked about how he was the one who decided to do the rebuild in 2022. So it kind of makes me feel like, we don't really get to hear too much from him until he has these kind of sit down interviews, which there's some owners that are more involved and vocal with teams, which can also have a negative effect. So you take what the good with the bad. But it always kind of felt like we couldn't do it because we have to get the owner's approval. But then here he is in this interview kind of alluding to he wasn't really liking the direction, especially with all the long-term contracts. So it's interesting. Honestly, you get his side, but then there's also the side, with Doug Wilson and some of the things he's saying. You're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay.
What?
But yeah, him talking about, I'm trying to look for that quote in regards to how he felt about EK65, which,
Oh yeah. Well, I just had it. Give me 1 second. It's up here. Oh yeah. So it's under the question Platner on his decision to rebuild in 2022, if it was driven by him. He says the previous team said that that's not there. EK65 was probably the last real try to keep the level of the Thorntons and Pavelskis. First, 1 star is not enough. Second, you know his qualities and you know his deficiencies. He was not the most, how do I say it, team-friendly player. He was good, but he was probably very good in a very good team. And I was like, damn. That's crazy.
okay, look, I didn't follow Carlson before he came onto the Sharks. EK65 is one of my closest friends, is a huge fan of his, like following him from when he was in his the captaincy Senators. So interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Like,
we're very defensive. No, we were EK65 defenders, because it's like we knew like he was the only star player on the team. He could only do so much, and his last season with us, he did a lot. He got 100 points. Like he did what he could. But I think I could also see this side of him not being a team friendly player. I think I could get those vibes. Yeah, I believe it.
how do you feel about his recalling Hurdle begging him to let him leave?
I think it might be a little bit
Exaggerated.
yeah. Yeah, but honestly, I don't blame Hurdle for wanting to go. The Sharks are still not, but they were in an even worse place then. And it's true, he did get 3 knee injuries on the Sharks, and if he's worried that if he gets one more, his career is done, might as well send him off somewhere where he has a chance to win a cup. I don't think I agree with the team that they chose to go with, but it is what it is.
Yeah. When this was all going down, I did voice my opinion that, like, I'm already preparing for him to leave, because it feels like that makes the most sense. Why are we going to sign a dude? Like, I get it. This is his first team. Like, in his mind, he wants to help the Sharks go all the way and whatever. But the writing's on the wall. We need to do a rebuild. The roster just isn't there. Why would you then sign a player in his prime at the time to an 8-year contract? So when he did that, I was like, okay, maybe I just don't know hockey. Maybe we are still in the mix. Like, I guess that's what I'm supposed to take from this, only for, like, the season comes to an end. Doug Wilson has to step down, and then we initiate the rebuild. And now we got this player who needs to be moved because it doesn't make sense at all. So right. Very, very, very interesting comments from Hasso. So
yeah, I did find the quote that I was looking for about Doug Wilson Jr., which was so, I don't know, man. He was asked about Doug Wilson stepping down. So he goes, that he was not well. Okay, that says it all. He was a good guy, very good hockey sense, but when you have a sickness like he had, permanent headaches. He was living in Phoenix and the team was here. Much more, I'm negative about his son. He was not drafting well. He was totally over his pay grade, and that was another mistake I probably made. I didn't see that. We were always relatively good at drafting. All of a sudden, we lost it.
The tea is hot and flowing.
I was like, dang. He should come out and speak more.
Craziness.
Oh my god.
The last bit here about signing Evgeny Malkin or wanting to sign and him getting slapped on the wrist for
Tampering.
potentially like tampering. That was, I think, like 2018, 2019. I think he was up for a contract. So I guess which thinking about it, I don't really think that would have made any difference anyway.
Right.
So look, the guy pays the bills. I'm going to take what he says with a grain of salt because, you've got folks on the hockey side who are in charge of making these decisions, and we put trust into them for the time being. And for me, Platner is kind of amongst us, where we talk about it and have opinions and go back to like, oh yeah, it's nice to think about if we never got EK65, like we would have Norris and we would have kept Pavelski and we would have drafted Stutzla. Like, yeah, it's nice to think about.
Yeah.
How many years after the fact we couldn't see into the future? Isn't it? Would it have made a difference? Hard to say. It's nice to see them on other teams like doing something. I mean, but Norris is no longer on the Senators. He went to the Senators, right? No, he's not. Where was he before? He
was with the Sens.
Yeah, and now he's with the Sabres, and now he's injured. So, I mean, Norris is not exactly doing much right now. And Stutzla is on a Wings team that should be done rebuilding and heading to the playoffs, and yet they can't seem to get over the hump. So,
what? Stutzla's still on the Sens.
Stutzla? Oh, you know what? Oh, I'm thinking of Moritz Seider. My bad. Well, hey, the Senators, they made the playoffs for the first time in how many years? And Pavelski's retired. So,
Pavelski, we're still trying to convince to come back to help coach.
I'm not saying the grass could have been greener on the other side if we never got Erik Karlsson, but I think if you go back to 2018, you're still trying to get Erik Karlsson. I think if you're a team that is in the hunt, and ideally we were trying to get Tavares, but Tavares, we know how that concluded. Mm-hmm. I think people would be upset if we didn't go out and get Karlsson. People are more upset that we lost Pavelski and Erik Karlsson just wasn't able to, injuries and the amount of money that he was making. People are more upset about that part of it, that we didn't get the Erik Karlsson that was like thriving and everything. And with the Senators, we got what we got.
That we did. But whatever, it's all in the past. And I feel like if we never let Pavelski go, if we didn't get Karlsson, and then we didn't take this nosedive, we wouldn't have Celebrini and Smith and Misa now. So everything works out the way it's
new chapter.
We are putting that in the past. We are here in the present and
we are looking forward.
Because the future is teal. I don't care what Nashville says. Ain't nobody looking at them. Their prospect pool isn't even as good as ours. The future is teal. Something I forgot I wanted to talk about when we were touching on Reams was, again, talking about how his presence in the locker room and stuff. Max Miller tweeted this yesterday, just before the game. And he goes, "You can't hear it on the big scoreboard, but it looked like Reeves yelled, 'Askey, release us,' right before the team goes through the giant shark's head. I'll ask Reeves about it later this week." So I'm going to be looking for that. It seems like he is a really big, fun guy with the other dudes in the locker room, because that's such a silly thing to imagine. You're waiting and you're anticipating going on the ice and you're like, "Release us."
If you're able to go back into like the Rangers socials, like he was like the hype guy that they had. They have like a camera that's right at the door where they come out, and he was always the guy that was like hyping up the team to
Yeah,
head
that
out
sounds right.
there. So
I feel like this is gonna be a fun season. We can start talking about the games if you'd like. Thursday feels like so long ago. I can't remember it. I really don't want to remember how that game ended. I think what I noticed was the Sharks were looking real good. The Sharks were playing defense, which is not something they've played in like 8 years. I'm exaggerating obviously, but Orlov, Letty, and I forget who else. They were looking really good out there. Actually going and stopping blocking. They were blocking shots. They were stopping plays from happening. I was like, wow, I forgot what good defense looks like. They were in the game for the most part all of Thursday. And then, Vegas does what Vegas does. The Sharks do what they do. I don't know what it is about that stupid team. I hate them. I hate them. They always get lucky bounces, especially against the Sharks. They will always get lucky bounces, and like, how the hell did Eichel score from the fucking the half the ice line? What is it called? Anyways,
center ice, the blue
yes,
line.
thank you.
But you have to go back further before that to make it even worse, in that we had Eklund heading towards the empty net goal. the empty net.
Twice.
And he had two Vegas guys like, clipping at him. And then he attempted to do a wraparound second chance, and someone was in front of him. And then Toffoli comes in to try to tap it in. And there was just like some force field around the net, only for them to come the other way. Eichel chips it in all weird, and Ned is just like, wow. Yeah.
And then the way it ended, I was so upset. I have not been so emotionally invested in this team since they were in the playoffs in 2019. Like, a loss is just a loss to me normally because they've been bad, right? It's like, another loss. Well, whatever. I was so into this game. I was like surprised at the level they were playing at, and like I was really excited, and I was like, wow, this team looks very different. Only for the same stupid shit that was happening last year to happen in this game. And I was ready to flip a table. I was so annoyed. Don't talk to me.
As I mentioned earlier, my brain stopped working after that fluky tying goal, and I pretty much don't remember much after that. When regulation ended, I remember telling my friend, I don't want OT. Like, this was not on my ask list for opening night. I just wanted this game to be closed out and be like, yay, all the good things that happen.
I gotta go. Well, it didn't last too long, so. And then yesterday, I don't really know how I was feeling watching the game. I think I was happy to see them scoring a lot. I was not happy seeing them being scored on a lot. It was nice to see that they were keeping the lead for most of it. And then third period woes. I don't know what it is about that third period that they just can't close out a game or win in OT. At least it didn't hurt as much as Thursday. I think I'm starting to be a little bit more realistic about where we are. I think I came in a little too excited and too hopeful on Thursday.
I'm just looking through the summary. I see that there are 2 goals scored in the third for the Ducks. We just needed to lock it down.
Yeah. And then they just took over. But I think I wanted to ask your opinion between what you saw Nedeljkovic versus Askarov, the two games.
So since I didn't get to
yesterday.
watch on Saturday, I don't have much to say about Askarov. I hope he looked better. I mean, I liked what I saw last season. Obviously, he needs to do better.
Yeah.
But when we acquired Nedeljkovic, I was actually really happy about that. I've been kind of following him since his Wings days, and then especially last season while he was he almost more or less kind of took the job away from Tristan Jarry last season with the Pens. He is one of those guys that, I mean, he's been fighting for sort of like a starter role. But the bits that I have seen on his previous teams, I thought it makes sense to bring him in. Like, he's got the veteran presence, like he'll be able to help Askarov like grow. And then also it's a good place for him to kind of, work on his game, because we know this isn't like his last stop. He's still trying to, do what he needs to do for his career. It was just that fluky goal with Eichel. I'm not faulting him for that. We know these goaltenders, they spend time adjusting their eyes for all situations of pucks bouncing weird and whatever. And usually when they're coming straight at you, you're able to you're able to stop those a whole lot better than the ones that are just coming out of like strange bouncing around on the ice and whatever. Like, those are a little more difficult to practice and anticipate. So obviously he's probably like went to bed last night and be like, well, now I know what I'm gonna like work on, all these like weird ass bouncy pucks and whatever. I remember in like my first season playing beer league for in net, like I had like a lob of a puck go over me, and it was like in slow-mo, which are like the worst one, because once you get your eyes adjusted to the speed of a game, ones that are like slow-mo or like a change up, you're just like, what the fuck? Yeah. So when that happened, I'm like, I get it. Bro is just like, oh, that was such a stupid one to go by me. And yet, when has he ever seen that stuff? Probably very little. So
I don't blame him for that one.
Yeah, the OT goal, I had to watch that about 3 times replay because I didn't even understand what happened there. I think I've concluded. My first thought was, if it were Marc-Andre Fleury, I would not question it for a moment. With that said, I appreciate when my goalies are aggressive. It's just in that replay, I think bro needed to be more aggressive. If you're going to commit to leaving your net to challenge against, it's not like they were completely on the other side of the ice. And, usually that's when the goaltender comes out to like, get the puck quickly back into play. Like, he got to the puck right as the Knights player was, and it looked like there's a little bit of a hesitation. Like, no, bro, you already left the net. Either go to the puck or don't. Right. And had he not gone towards the puck, I don't think it would have necessarily made it any better, because potentially you could have like a 2-on-none or something like that. However, the game would have unfolded. So either scenario probably wouldn't have been ideal. I didn't love our OT in the home opener. I didn't, and maybe this is the coaching staff's direction for things. Who knows? I didn't necessarily love that you have this time and space. Like when you watch OT, if you don't like what you're seeing, you exit the zone, you regroup, you re-enter. I didn't love how it almost felt like they were forcing it in, and they were forcing passes that weren't great. I didn't love that. And so and then we saw right before we hopped on, Versofsky was talking about how, Will Smith and Celebrini being out there longer on the OT than they should have. Like, also, that's not great. the guys I know, especially the younger guys, they want to be the guy that, like, gets the team the win. So that's growing pains. That's realizing I need to get off the ice because I'm tired. And here's a team that lost last night in OT. They have the experience to come in here, dig in deep and whatever. So just from the puck drop of OT, I did not love the feeling. I'm like, I don't like what you guys are doing in OT. So when it turned around and went the other way, and Ned, I think he just never came back from that fluky goal, and he was like in his head or whatever. And I'm just like, why? Why did it have to end that way?
It was so annoying. I hated it in my heart. I think from what I've been seeing throughout the game, I think Ned would have had a better chance staying in net and stopping that puck from going in than him trying to come out and do whatever the hell he was trying to do.
Yeah.
He was playing a real solid game up until that fluky goal. And I don't know. Like, he even made, I think, a really good save during OT. And then, I don't know, he got too confident or he's still in his head about it and came out to the fucking blue line. Like, why are you out so far from the net? What are you doing? Anyways.
Well, like I said, going back, if you're going to do that, you better do it.
Right.
So if you're not going to commit to do it, then stay put and deal with the potential 2-on-none. Right. But if you're going to go out to the blue line, go hard, because there was like this hesitation when he realized, oh man, like that Vegas player is going to get to it before me. And then he didn't have time to get his stick onto it to like do anything with it. So, but whatever. First game of the season, get that out of the way, right?
Yeah. Don't do it again.
Yeah. So how did you feel about the game against the Ducks? Because I'm seeing here that we let the Ducks shoot 43 times on Askarov. So what were we doing last night?
I don't know. There was a lot of offense and there was a little bit amount of defense. Like, it just felt a little bit different than Thursday, where everyone came out really fighting for a win. Yesterday, there was still fight. I'm not saying there wasn't, but I don't feel like the defense was as strong yesterday as it was Thursday, obviously. And then Askey, I feel like he was a lot more confident last season than he was this game. He felt a little, I don't know, like I right now, between the two goalies, I feel a lot more confidence in Ned. Because he was like really standing tall in net and really like keeping those pucks out. And I did notice his style of play is very different from other goalies that we've had, because he uses his stick a lot to try and interrupt passes and whatever, which I don't see very often. And Askey was like, I'm not saying he played terrible, because he stopped 30-something goals, right? Like 43 shots. What is that? 35? No, 36. He stopped like 36 shots. So he was doing decently, and he had some really good saves in the game or whatever. But I think after like goal number 3 or something, he was just like in his head about not being able to stop certain ones, because there were some fluky ones. Like there was one goal specifically that he almost stopped, but it like squeaked through his arm and went straight in. And it's like, dude, you almost had it, and that's so frustrating. I think there might have been a couple that happened like that, where he almost had it. There was one, I think it might have been the tying goal in the third period to send it into overtime, where he was like towards the left side of the goal. He was down in the butterfly and he like almost stopped it or something, and it went past his shoulder. It hit the bar, the post, bounced in front of him, or like went to his right, and he didn't have a chance to like stop it in time. And so one of the Ducks players was able to get it and put it into the net. some weird thing. So like there was a lot of these weird things happening that ended up in the back of the net that was really frustrating. So I don't like super fault him for these things, but I think I would
What
like
is
to
up
see
with
him.
these first 2 games and just fucking up our goaltenders?
I don't know. It's not fair to
We'll leave
them.
the defense to deal with that. Like, we already have our defensive core that's gonna mess with them, and you don't need the pucks to be betraying them too.
I know, but that's just the Sharks' luck, you know. I don't know. It was an exciting game. I think it would have been a fun game to be at, with how many goals were scored, but also very frustrating with the way it ended.
Yikes! Klingberg was on the ice for 6 of those.
Oof. Oof. Yeah, he was interviewed last night too. But on the bright side,
Well,
the Baby Sharks, the Barracuda, also played a game last night, and the score was also 7-6, but they came out on top. From what I've seen, they were playing the Condors. The Cuda, let me see, 36 shots on goal. They scored 3 out of the 8 penalties that they had, power plays that they had. And look at all these goal scorers. So Beasted got one, Ostapchuk got one, Giles got one, Musty got his first goal of his career, or his professional career, whatever. Cagnoni got one, Huntington got one, and Cardwell got one. So it looks like there were 7 different players that scored a goal. It wasn't like someone had a couple and whatever. So that seems good. That sounds like they have a good variety of players that can score goals. Some defensemen sprinkled in there.
and the Barracuda went through a bit of a change in the off season, so there's also a lot of new faces as well in the locker room. So it's kind of nice to see they're starting off on a good note.
New faces and new jerseys. Excited to see where they're gonna go with some new guys on the team.
I would have liked to have gone to that game and didn't work out because Luke Prokop is on the Bakersfield Condors this season.
Is he? I didn't know he got traded.
He is. He just he signed a 1 year with the Oilers. I think his time was up with Nashville, and they didn't sign him.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't realize. One thing we didn't touch on was that Sam Dickinson had his NHL debut last night. I didn't really notice him out on the ice, unfortunately.
Well, from stats level, it looked like he had a pretty decent game. He played a little over 11 minutes, but I guess he did a lot of good things. And
that's
I guess if he doesn't stick out as someone who was on the ice for any of the goals, that's a good debut for him.
It's a great thing. Yeah, his parents were able to come out, so they interviewed. I think Tara interviewed them during like intermissions or like breaks in the game. They talked about how proud they are of seeing him being able to reach his dreams after all the work that he's put in. It was a good game yesterday. It was cute, good stuff happening. But
we are still awaiting the debut of Michael Misa.
Yeah, we'll see about when he comes out. We'll win that game. I'm calling it here. I'm calling it here and now. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
I'm with you on that. I think we'll win that game too.
Thank you. Okay, switching gears from the Sharks and the one thing we want to talk about outside of the Sharks, because we don't care about the rest of the teams, because why should we? I'm just kidding. But big announcement, McDavid, for whatever reason, decided to sign a 2-year contract with the Oilers at $25 million. I don't know why he would re-sign with that team. So silly. Just kidding. But I don't know. Not surprising, but it's also like, that's boring.
And he signed a team-friendly contract of $12.5 million because Jack Eichel also signed an 8-year extension, and he signed for, why is it not showing? 13.5, and then Kirill Kaprizov signed
Yes.
an 8-year contract as well. 17 million.
Damn.
So McDavid is saying, Oilers, figure it out. I'm giving you 2 more years. Super discount. Because I pretty much score majority of these goals.
Right. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Pulling a Crosby here. Not as cheap. I don't know.
I don't know, man. Like, they need to do something about their goaltending. That goaltending is not going to get them through to the Stanley Cup. They're going to have to figure out something.
Look at this. The Oilers got another significant deal done on Monday, signing defenseman Jake Wallman to a 7-year, $49 million contract with a $7 million AAV. Good for him. He found his place to stay for a bit. I hate that it's the Oilers, but love that guy. I wish he would have came back to the Sharks somehow, some way. What could have been. But yeah, that's all the talking points we got. Do you want to finish it off with your...
So we have a giveaway to start off this new season on Over the Glass. Thank you to the Sharks for sending us these to kick off the new season, and we're going to give one away to our viewers and our listeners. So stay tuned for some info on that if you're not following us on socials already, because that's where we're going to put it out there, on our Instagram, on our Blue Sky, on X.
It's Twitter. I don't care what you say.
on Twitter. Be on the lookout for that at some point this week. Haven't decided which day, but go follow us on all those platforms. That is where we're going to put it out there, and that is how you can put your name into the hat for the drawing for this bobblehead. And unfortunately, it can only send this out if you're a US, if you're living in the US. I don't even want to think about how expensive this should be to send it elsewhere. Like, I am so sorry. Maybe if we win the lottery that I don't play, we can send it internationally.
Maybe if they just send me money because they feel like it. But yeah, go ahead. Follow us. Do the things that you'll need to do to enter. And I don't know, win yourself a bobblehead. Might be fun. Start a collection. Add to your collection. All right. I think that's all we got for you this week, unless you have if you have any closing thoughts.
No, despite a unfortunate couple of late losses to start out our season, I'm still very optimistic about this team. It's just the first couple of games, a lot of new faces. I felt like defense was pretty good against Vegas. So, given I didn't get to watch Saturday's game, I can't compare. But
it was like
still going back to these guys, they literally played with each other for a couple of games in preseason before they have to get the show on the road. So they're still work in progress. Learning about your D partner, building the chemistry across the ice. We're also trying to give Dickinson the experience without degrading his confidence. We're awaiting Michael Misa's debut. There's a lot of great things happening, but it's not all going to come together overnight, all pretty, and we're ready to go. Like, we still need to give these guys time to show us what they've got.
That's one thing I forgot to say is, like, I was very impressed at how connected all these players were on the ice, and like the chemistry I'm seeing with how many new guys there are on this team. So I think I'm optimistic and excited to see what's to come this season, which I know I say this every season, but you know, every season it's a different level of excitement. But yeah, I think that's all we got. I will remind you guys again that we will be recording in a couple of weeks. We will be doing every other week now, not every week, just for a bit. I hope you guys stick around. But yeah, we'll see you next time. I've been your hostess.
And I have been Jay.
We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Goodbye.